I think like many other people, I had a lot of misconceptions about who God is when I was younger. And that's when I realized what the gospel is. It's not that I am good, but it's that Jesus is good. Hi everyone, my name's Ross. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Greystones. I went to UCD. I studied psychology for 3 years. I had a great time. So as I was growing and becoming a student, I was thinking, there must be something more to this life that might be able to fulfill me. And I'm looking around, I'm seeing rap videos, I'm seeing the people in my school, and they seem to be having a great time and doing X and Y, going to parties and getting up to whatever they're getting up to. I said, may as well give that a try myself. It looks fun. Chasing girls, I think I had a new crush probably every week. They kept me entertained, kept me excited. But after a while, I just started to realize that this can't be what it's all about. One crush leads to another, one hangover leads to another. And it can't be all that I was living for. So I suppose I started looking for something else that might be more fulfilling, that might satisfy me, because every time I had a high, I'd have a low after it. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that you have a high and the next day maybe it's not so good. I have one specific memory when I was walking up the stairs with my dad was coming down the stairs and I was going up the stairs. This just shows you how important God was in my life. And I probably was thinking very philosophically and deeply for about 15 seconds, and I just said to Dad, do you know what, Dad? I don't think God exists. And he just said, okay. And then we just walked past each other and that was that. So that just shows how important God was to me. When I made that decision without even knowing it, I made myself my own God, because I made the decision that God wasn't, even if he was real, he wasn't worth thinking about, that I may as well just do my own thing and do what makes me happy. Psychology is great. I studied psychology, as I said. So I decided maybe I would try to be a good person. I was trying to make my life better, make my bed in the morning and do all that stuff, but really it just made me arrogant. And yeah, I tried a lot of things that just didn't work. So I sat there and I thought, maybe that decision I made when I was 15 or 13, or whenever I decided that God wasn't real, maybe I should rethink that decision, because I didn't have a purpose for my life. I didn't have joy. I think like many other people, I had a lot of misconceptions about who God is when I was younger. A lot of people, maybe in Ireland especially, might think of him as a policeman in the sky who's just looking to point out every wrong thing you've done and make you feel guilty. And I also thought he was very distant. How could you possibly see him working in your life? And even if he did create the world, like, what does that have to do with me? But in my journey, as I've started reading the Bible and started reaching out to God, I've seen that he's not who I thought he was, that he's actually immeasurably more than I ever could have thought him to be. Yeah, he's close. He cares about me and he wants the best for me. Like the Bible says, one verse that I find hard to believe a lot of times, but it really keeps me going. It says that it's Romans chapter 8. It says that God works for the good of all those who love him. And that, just seeing that in my everyday life, even if situations seem bad, knowing that God is still in control and that he's actually my loving father. That word father, I think we say in Ireland as if it means nothing, like our father, and you can kind of just blur it out in school and you don't, but just to sit down and think of the significance that God is our father. He's as close as a father, and that he loves us so intimately like that, and his hand is on our backs and he really just wants the best for us. And that's the reason that he doesn't want us to do certain things, because it will actually lead us to suffering, and that's my experience. Throughout my whole journey, the biggest thing that changed in my walk with Jesus is realizing that it's not about me or how well I perform or how well I act. That's what my whole concept of Christianity was before, that I need to be a good lad and I need to stick to the rules and I need to get everything right. But as I say, the biggest thing that changed for me was I realized that it's actually not up to my performance. And that's when I realized what the gospel is. And that the gospel is that it's not that I am good, but it's that Jesus is good. And that he took all those mistakes that I've made and all those times that I've fallen short, and he went to the cross and he died on the cross for those, and he took them off me. So when I believe in him, because he's good, I'm made good through him. That he's taken all of my mistakes, all of my shame, and the times that I fell short onto himself, onto his shoulders, so that I can be with God. He's made it possible for me to come to God, and he's cleaned me. That's what made me see the importance of the person of Jesus, like the man Jesus Christ, not this religious bubble that I saw, or Christianity. It's about the person of Jesus and knowing him personally. That is what really flipped the scales for me, and that's where I got that joy, because I know that every day that I'm gonna fail, and that I can try my best, but I'm never gonna live up to that standard. But I don't have to feel this like choking sensation that I need to keep above water, because Jesus is the one who keeps me above the water. Like, there's a story in the Bible where one of the disciples, Peter, starts walking on water just by looking at Jesus. He looks at Jesus and he walks out and he's on the water. And when he starts looking down onto himself and he realizes the state he's in, he starts to sink. And I had that sinking feeling before, but now that my eyes are on Jesus, I'm not looking at my mistakes, I'm looking at Jesus. And I can feel myself, metaphorically of course, standing on top of the water. That helps me not to be afraid to make mistakes, not to be paralyzed about my future, because I was always worrying about my grades and what people thought of me. Are my parents going to be happy with the way that I go in life? But now I know that it's all in God's hands, and that if I just look at Jesus, that he'll work everything out for my good. Who is God really? He's good, he's powerful. He might seem so great that we can never even see him, but another thing about God is he's knowable, that he sent his son Jesus Christ in the flesh, like me and you. He had a body, he had hands and feet and legs, and he walked on this earth, and people knew him personally. And the truth is that we can know him personally today. Even though he died, the great news about Christianity is that he rose again 3 days later, and he's alive. So we can know God personally. He's not just so distant that we can't reach out to him, but in fact he's reaching out to us, and he wants to know you personally. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story of how I came to know Jesus, and I really hope that it might encourage you to look into him for yourself.